Welcome back to our Slant 6 engine refresh, rebuild type thing. I slammed together a couple of parts. We have our oil pan installed. All our bolts are in, tight but not too tight. Carefully stored and numbered, matching lifters have been installed in their bores with the cam, on top of the cam, with a little bit of assembly lube. We're hoping that we have no issues with warpage or whatever, because this did not go through a machine shop. Careful inspection, the use of a chisel as a blade, rubbing alcohol to clean that. There's no petroleum or anything like that. Now where you really want to get down and dirty, very detailed, because it hasn't been through the machine shop. Especially if you're trying to reuse one of the steel shim head gaskets that has very little give. You want to make sure that there are no high spots. It's not low spots that you're most likely going to have an issue with. Locating pins, dowel pins on the front and rear. Earlier engines and later engines, I don't know what year that split is, have different size dowels. So you want to be careful to confirm that the dowel holes in your head are appropriately going to mate with the dowels that are in your block, or else they will hold the head up off of the head gasket and you will have problems. So we got the block and the head not as a running unit. So I know they're right, but you want to confirm. If you're ordering parts that may or may not match. Around the water jacket areas, specifically there's this triangular spot right here, these round ones at the ends, and a lot of times, you know, the corrosion will kind of creep into the gaskets, and if there is corrosion in the block, a little bit of pitting with some it may be slightly high and hold, and then that's going to, warp or hold your whole head up off the gasket irregularly. You'll get a false torque reading, but it won't be torqued good in the center. So around those water jacket flow places, you want to really make sure that there's no rust remaining. Turn your cloth as you're wiping with your solvent so that you're not just smearing your oil, any contaminants around. You want to, turn your cloth and then wipe, and then turn your cloth and then wipe to make sure you're picking up any contaminants, and then everything should dry. We've done the same for our cylinder head, which we recently reassembled with our gaskets and springs and lapped our valves in. Everything's going, it's coming together here. I'm excited. The early heads, you can put the lifters in after. The late heads, you cannot. So, you're best to just put the lifters in now. You don't want to get stuck where you got to take it back apart. So, make sure your lifters are in. Time to get this head gasket out and slap this puppy on, and then we can start torquing head bolts. You want to check your head bolts holes. You look in there. You want to make sure they're not full of oil, because that will hydrolock and give you false torque readings. And maybe run a gun brush down in them real gently. It doesn't have to be super tight or anything, but if there's any corrosion or garbage from when you were scraping off the head gasket, you want to make sure that that's not in those threads. You don't want any binding, so you can get a nice true torque reading when you're giving your cylinder head the down. The crankiness, the clickiness. This is brass, there's nylon ones, whatever you can find around the shop, or maybe blast it out with some brake clean and then suck it out with a vacuum or something. It's a gray area. Some people give you certain torque specs for wet head bolts and others for dry. That's not my area of expertise. Find a tutorial online and decide how you're going to do it. I don't particularly like torquing anything dry. I want them to be tight like a tiger. I want them to, click all the way up there where they go. Leave the holes a little bit dry and just make sure you put a gentle amount of lubricant on your head bolts. And we are going to reuse head bolts because they are not the ones that are supposed to have to be replaced. They're not the newer style stretchy kind. Should they be replaced? Yeah, they're old. I kind of think they should be, but we're not going to do that because we're doing a rebuild, and I've yet to hear anybody tell me they had an issue with a head bolt, reusing a head bolt in one of these particular engines. So, at your own risk, reuse them. We have a Felpro style head gasket. It's pretty thick. It has steel fire rings that extend between the pistons, which is good. And it is, in fact, Felpro, the Felpro brand. It's pretty thick compared to the factory style shim gasket. It does say it's labeled top and bottom. It says use no sealer. So we are going to follow all of those instructions. I don't know why there's holes there. That's not really necessary, but okay. I feel like it'll be all right. Put the bottom down. And then we got to pick up this pig and get it on there. It is heavy, super heavy. I wish I had help today. I'll be your shop crane for today. Whew. Okay, get her lined up with the dowels. There she goes. All right, she's on. It's on, baby. My bolts cleaned up. I wire brushed this end on the wheel, zip, and marked with an M. M. The M is for Mopar. The F is for feisty. The F is for firepower. They're the same thing. They're just one has an M and then the other has a. So we're ready. We're just gonna start dropping them in, boom. But you never use any kind of Loctite or anything like that. The tension of the bolt at torque is plenty to keep it from backing its way out. So never anything but lubricant, and in some cases you only want to install them dry as per manufacturer specification. Up here there's a place, so none of this part actually contacts anything when it goes in there. And that's the stretchy part that gives you your torque tension. So yeah, there's 7 on either side, 14 bolts. They are all the same. I wasn't sure if there was a different one in the back, but they are all identical. And you're going to put them in there. You want to start your torque pattern from the center and work out in both directions. You want to progressively torque, but not re-torque, starting in the center so that it presses out the gasket, not puckers it. So one of them looked like, somebody maybe lifted the block out with it. So, we discarded that one. That part of the Slant 6 is pretty stout and not really prone to failure problems. It's more gasket surfaces and stuff like that, if any problem. Slant 6s are not known for head gasket problems. So just follow good procedures and you'll generally have really good outcomes. You didn't see that. I mean, how many times do you want to see me twist the bolts? I'm going to set them to the right amount with the wrenchy thing. Okay? And then I'll bring you back for whatever we do next. That's 80. Voila. Valvage. I'll have to find some push rods that haven't been stepped on and bent in the trunk of the car. And then I think I have 2 sets, so I should be able to pick out some good ones. And then we'll put a rocker arm assembly together and just about close it up. We'll put oil in it, maybe spin it over a bunch of times, and then it'll be ready to go in the car.